Happy Wednesday and welcome to another FIBO USA webinar. I am very excited about today's session that will answer all your questions about virtual fitness and how to leverage digital now that most facilities are open again. My name is Maike Kumstel. I'm the Industry Relations and Content Manager for FIBO USA and today's host. Before we start, I want to share some housekeeping notes with you. First of all, I want to let you know that we are recording today's webinar and that we are sending out an email with the recording to you tomorrow. If you're having difficulty hearing us and are listening through your computer, please check that your speaker volume is turned up. If you're still facing issues, you can message us using the chat box, which is located on the right side of your screen. We already collected a bunch of questions from you ahead of time that will be addressed in today's session. But feel free to ask additional questions at any time through the same chat box. And now I would like to introduce our awesome speakers for today, Anne-Marie Barber and Mike Hansen. Mike started as a fitness professional 20 years ago and transformed into a digital innovation and fit tech expert. Mike has led dozens of brands, strategies, and digital transformations, such as the fitness streaming strategy for MindBody. Mike is currently the managing partner of Endorphins, a fully integrated fitness streaming agency built for fitness creators. Anne-Marie is the education lead for Endorphins and founder of Be Well Advisory. She's been in the fitness space for over 15 years, starting out as an instructor, then going on to founding the group fitness company Soul Body. As a group fitness program creator and product developer, she has a unique knowledge of how to elevate fitness brands in both the live and digital space. That being said, welcome Anne-Marie and Mike. We are so happy to have you, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Maike.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We got your questions, and we're going to run through those questions today. As Maike said, we will accept questions during this, and at the end, we'll have a live Q&A where we'll open up and address those questions, as well as you'll have the ability to ask more questions at the end. So before we kick things off, I just wanted to give you guys just a little bit of background, I think, on the industry that I think would be important. And this was something that we had started on actually last year, of a big project that we were doing with another company. And we saw the telltale signs of this format shift coming into market. Obviously, with COVID-19, that accelerated things, and a large percentage of everybody had to go online. I think the last numbers we saw was roughly 70-some-odd% of the clubs had to go online in some form or fashion, whether it was social media behind a paywall. And so we've had the ability to work with well over 50 brands in the space in some form or fashion, whether that be through research or best practices or implementing strategies. So we're here today to share some of those insights, as well as we've had to make pivots and adjustments ourselves with customers and as a business ourselves related to COVID. And so we can share some of those insights. So today we got the questions, and I just kind of want to cover the topics that we're going to go over, and then we'll go through them one by one and answer those for you. So today we're going to cover platforms and tools, social media, instructors, video and production, music and sound, and we'll go over some financial KPIs, and then we'll wrap this up with how to use digital in your clubs going forward, and looking at that more from your omni-channel strategy perspective. So before we kick things off, Anne-Marie, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, I'm here also. Mike, think of Mike as more tech. Think of me as more in front of the camera, trained a lot of instructors that are taking it from the studio floor into the digital space. So it's a really exciting time, as Mike said. A lot, as we saw with COVID, a lot of people kind of went digital and virtual that weren't there before, and now they're seeing that this is kind of the new expected experience. So we're here to kind of help you leverage that medium and that channel in addition to what you're already doing.
Awesome. So to kick things off, since we have a laundry list of questions here, the first one is I look down, guys, as I'm looking at a sheet here. So what platform should I use for online videos? And I think this is a good question to kick things off with because there's a lot of platforms out there. And so I want to give you the framework of how you look at this. And so there's two different avenues that we look at. We look at tools that come with an audience, and that's basically your social platforms, your Facebook and your Instagrams and your YouTubes. Think of those as places where they have good tools for video, but they have an audience where you can acquire customers or acquire prospects or even engage with your customer in their platform of choice. And then on the other side, you have the tool where you have to bring the audience, and that's a lot of times where the paywall exists. That's where it's your branded site and things of that nature. So when you look at that, you need to make a decision in both of those areas. And when you make a decision about how you want to approach those tools, I think there's two decisions to be made. One is that you are a brand and you are going to try to make a brand extension, and you're going to translate whatever your brand is between quality and monetization and content into those two buckets. Or the other side is you might be an instructor and you might actually want to facilitate connections, and you might want to go from one-to-one to one-to-some to one-to-many, the benefits of what digital is. So when you look at these, I think these are the decisions you have to make. And then what happens is within those categories, you'll have a few different options to choose from. There is no one platform that serves all purposes. That just doesn't exist yet. And so that's how I would approach that, because I can't tell you that necessarily it's a Vimeo or it is a Zype or it is a YouTube or it is IntelliVideo, whatever it may be. They all have different purposes. They all have pros. They all have cons. So that's how I would think about that when it comes to the platforms and selecting one to serve up your video. The next question here is, do all platforms offer a recording option of live stream sessions? So let's frame out what a live stream session is, and then we'll explain how to look at this. So in a live stream, you have the type where you're going to be broadcasting out, but there's no communication back and forth. Then you have the type where it's bi-directional, so I'm communicating out and I'm receiving communication back in, very similar in nature to a Zoom. And so every platform can go ahead and ingest that live stream and deliver it, most likely, if it's a paid platform. It doesn't mean that it's actually originating the live stream. So not all of them originate the live stream. Some of them serve the live stream. And so it's very important when you're looking at this to determine the tool set that you need to use. And if that's Zoom as it relates, some people have integrations with platforms, and that's part of the mapping process that comes to selecting that. Because if that's one of your primary mediums for delivery and how you plan to monetize, whether it's people sign up for sessions or whatever it may be, then you need to pick a platform that integrates with that. And so that's how I would think about it from a live perspective. Not all of them actually do both those types of streams. And so typically when you get into where you're trying to get a platform to do more than just one or two different types of streams, that usually requires you to actually spend a little bit of time and a little bit of money on the front end. So you have to use APIs. And these are all types of things where we've been able to kind of walk people through those solutions and kind of map those things out, because unfortunately, there's not one answer. The next thing that was asked here is, do you have any recommendations for two-way video live streaming other than Zoom that's scalable and of good quality? So we spent a lot of time on that. In fact, Anne-Marie has spent time comparing Zoom with a few other platforms out there. So I'm going to hand this question over to her and let her give you some insights into her findings.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's been using Zoom because it's, easy to use. It's very intuitive, but there's Cisco WebEx meetings, there's GoToMeetings, Google Hangouts, Join Me, Cisco Jabber, TeamViewer, Adobe Connect, Skype. It all depends on also the admin tools. Could you share your screen? Can someone take over the screen? Most of them, as far as the audio and the video, are really pretty much one channel for audio and video, or one output. So we kind of found a workaround on Zoom, and I know a lot of instructors have been doing this, where you can actually use some software to plug in your voice and your music to have it on two different channels and offer it that way. But there's a lot of different ones out there. Again, as Mike said, you're bringing the audience to you. You're doing one-on-one. You can have up to 20 people. There's different costs for the Pro, but we can add those in the notes for you to look at. And I can also share a comparison chart for you guys to look at as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Another thing for everyone to know about this is that Zoom was never meant for what the purpose is being used within fitness because of the type of stream it is. A lot of times technical people may call it like a WebRTC stream, and you may be used to seeing what would be called an RTMP stream, which is a broadcast stream. And so some of those things I think will be improved upon. There are companies, such as MindBody that we know of and others that are actually repurposing these technologies to more of a fitness-friendly experience. And so I think over the next few months, you'll see improvements there directly coming from some of your current service providers. So keep an eye out and ask them how they're addressing that, because most people are. The next category we have here for questions is around social media. And so I'm going to kick things off because one of the things I think that's important as it relates to social media is that you have some people that are charging in social media and you have some people that are making it free. If you think of the context that we just said as it relates to that there's an audience within there, our recommendation is that it's actually social media is free, unless it's gated, where it makes it more of like a private group type session. And the reason why is because you should use that as a way to acquire more customers, more people that want to get exposure to your brand or experience your brand. And so I'm going to hand this one over to Anne-Marie on the social media side. And so one of the questions we have here is related specifically to this is how should somebody look at using social media to grow their online fitness business?
I'll use a case study too from Vita Fitness. A very good friend runs the marketing there. And as you know, a lot of clubs use social media to offer free content. They put it all up on, they created open groups and they just blasted out classes, live sessions, and even maybe uploaded a lot of the live to YouTube where people could subscribe and just get all the free content. What Vita Fitness did is they created a private Facebook group where they were charging right away. So they set up the paywall and then you would have access to the private group. They offered very limited free content during COVID. And that was really smart. And now they're going to that video management platform system. They're going to use Uscreen. So there's 3 different ways to do it. You kind of have the overall social media where whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, where you're really offering those free services for exposure and marketing and promotion and for people to know what you're doing. And maybe that's a broader offer of content. And then you can niche it and bring it down to a little more higher end, top tier delivery from the private Facebook group. And now, like I said, Vita is now going to Uscreen to monetize, set up the paywall, have not only live, but on demand, where you pay for it, it's branded, and you own your audience on that one.
Right. One of the other questions I have here, it's more specific, I think technical question is, can I export Facebook Live, Instagram Live sessions and save them to my device? What do you know about that?
Yeah, so you guys, I think, know this. If you're doing live on Facebook, it'll stay on your wall for as long as you want, and then you can take it down. So if I missed my, Allison's 9 a.m. yoga, I can get onto Facebook later and take her class. Instagram Live will delete automatically after 24 hours. But you, as the admin of your Instagram, can save that video and you can watch it later, but you could save it to your files, but that would just be for your own consumption after. Similar to the story, like you can upload that Instagram Live to your story as well, but that'll disappear after 24 hours. But one more thing on that, when you record, I know a lot of people have been doing multiple cameras for recording, whether they're doing Facebook Live, they did Instagram Live, and they did Zoom. They took those 3 different recordings and put it, or even on YouTube. But there's ways, and Mike can even talk about kind of delivering the same filming to different channels as well, because I know that got cumbersome for a lot of people.
Yep. And if you want to learn more about that, you can actually look up something called multicasting or things of that nature. So you can go to multiple platforms. Another thing that is coming out, and we wrote an article on it, is that Facebook, as an example, is integrating paywalls into this specifically for that, the ability to do stars, so you can get a penny per star. So the monetization side is coming into social media. And so it can be utilized as a platform directly in there, and that's actually a pretty good tool for an instructor to get started with. But when you want to brand the experience, you want your brand on there, and you're trying to simulate whatever your brand stands for, you know, obviously it probably means you should move to a product as a paywall. So the next category of questions is around instructors. And so, Anne-Marie, I'm going to hand this right over to you. And the question is, how should I pay my instructors for teaching online videos? Which is a great question.
Okay, so I'm guessing you are a gym group fitness manager or owner where you have instructors that are offering the online videos. You know, you could do a couple of things. If you're charging a package, you know, you could almost do a rev stream depending on, and I know a lot of platforms do kind of like minutes watched. So if someone really is killing it and all these people are watching it, you know, you really can pay them based on how much people are watching their content. You can also do, and I know with SoulBody, my ex-business partner is doing this, especially during COVID, she was just paying her instructors 100%, whatever she was charging per viewer. So whether it was $10 a class, or I think it was like something like $20 a week during COVID. I know that's going to go up. So it just depends on really the platform you're using, what your costs are, what your fixed costs are for that delivery, and how are you packaging it. And if you want to add, you know, the more people promote and the more people watch, you know, they should get paid for those views. So you could do a rev share or a flat fee.
Great. So moving on from the instructor side, we have the videos and production side of questions. So I'm going to jump on this one. And so the question was, should we do live streaming or video on demand? And so it doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. Obviously, people can do a live stream and then turn that into a replayable video, which would be a video on demand. Let me give you some insights, though, that might help gauge how you approach this. If you look at Peloton numbers, since everybody likes to reference their numbers, 90% of their viewership ends up being on the replayed class, on the video on demand class, and less on the live streaming. We're in the midst of a bunch of consumer interviews with some other brands right now, and there's this strong desire to do live, but once again, their schedule does not match, even though they're at home, right? And maybe they have more flexibility and control over their schedule, it still doesn't match, right? And so you got to keep that in mind. The live experience, however, does create a little bit more of a sense of a community when the instructor is able to call somebody out. And that could be as simple as, like, I have the registration list here, so I can say hi to Gail from Upstate Studios, since I know you're on here. And so now there's a lot more of a connection between her and I, even though we're not talking. And so it's those sorts of things. And when people know that somebody else is there, that's been reported by the consumer that they like that a lot. Also, the energy and experience side of the equation from the instructor sometimes seems to rise. And then sometimes people are bending the rules on music related to live versus posting on video on demand, because that stuff gets taken down if you don't have licensing rights, which we'll get into. So that's how I would think about that. Both serve a different purpose. So if you have the ability to, you should probably do both. The question we have next here is, how should we approach licensing with our videos to other platforms? That's a great question, and there's more and more platforms that are coming out in the market that are looking to license content. And that allows you to take a good video on demand product, and a lot of times people call that evergreen, and create additional monetary value. But the other side of the equation, which is probably the most important side, is it allows you to take your brand and your content and put it in front of their audience and use that as a marketing opportunity, which if somebody listens to one good song from an artist, a lot of times they go buy the album. And think about that the same way you would think about it with your videos. They might see your best video, put your best video because it's marketing your brand. They're going to come to try to potentially see some more. So you might get some money, as our fitness producer Mike says, he calls it mailbox money. You'll get some money in the mailbox, but you'll also get some people to come over and check out your brand and potentially become a customer direct with you. The next thing is, should I use one camera or should I use two cameras or three cameras? So let's go through this a little bit. So on the camera side of the equation, when you're doing video on demand and you're dealing in post-production, if you have two cameras and the instructor messes up, it's a lot easier in post-production to fix that, because I can go right to the second camera, and you usually have your audio on a different feed and you have your music in a different feed. In fact, you do your music in post, you don't do it during live. So the multi-camera gives you a better experience, and it allows you to fix the issues, because nobody's bats 1000% as it relates to shooting videos in one shot. And so you're able to fix those types of things. So if you have the ability to go two, great. It does require a little bit more equipment. It would require post-production or somebody controlling that in real time with some sort of mixer or switching technology back and forth if you're doing live. The last thing that we're going to hit on here, I think, is for you, Anne Marie. It says, can I just record my group classes and put those videos up? I'm curious how you would answer that.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting too, if you look at it from a group fitness instructor, I as a group fitness instructor can say, hey, I want to be an influencer. I want to take my classes and get on another platform that already has 700 other instructors and thousands of subscribers. So if you think of NeoU, where you can actually go there and record your signature classes, or Burn Along, or even Wexford Fitness on Demand, I mean, there are opportunities for you to get on and kind of have that rev share. They usually kind of put it in this big, pile, and then again, the minutes watched, that money gets paid to you. So that's kind of nice if you are have a big following, you have some really great signature creative programming that you want to share with the world. You can get on that and your videos will be up and out, and you're just using somebody else's platform. Another way to do it is if you're part of a gym and your gym decides to use, whether they're putting cameras in the studios or some production guys coming in and videotaping, that is based really on the club and what platform they're using. Like, for example, Mindbody, where it kind of comes into this big catalog of classes that you're offering. Or it could be as simple as you do it yourself. You put it up on YouTube, and that's a great way to put your videos up on YouTube, create a great subscription a channel, and grow your audience. I mean, YouTube has billions of users. It's the #2 search engine. If you really word it right and tag it right and title it right, you can really get a lot of traction. There's a lot up there. And one more thing about YouTube is they have royalty-free music. They have music, a ton of playlists that are super cool for every kind of fitness class that you can use only on YouTube. So that's an option too.
Awesome. And music is our next category, but before we jump into that, I think there's an important thing I want to bring up, and that is that we're seeing more and more people move into trying to set up production within their own studios. And so there's a lot of questions around the equipment and what should we use, right? And so I think just to touch on this lightly, is that it's very important to make sure you source the proper camera. And we'll tell you this, when you go to multi-camera, use the same exact cameras, so you don't have to deal with color grading and different things that all different cameras and lenses come into the mix with this. Also make sure that you're using the proper mic. Remember, your instructors are going to get sweaty. It's going to be on a different channel. You might have multiple instructors and they're on multiple channels. If you're doing with post-production, your music will be dealt with there. You have lighting. You have a lot of different things to consider, but when you do it right, it can come out and create a really good quality product. And production and post-production helps with that. If you shoot bad video or you just have a bad instructor, no post-production is going to fix that. So you have to deal with a little bit of training around the instructor side of the equation. But the way that we approach this next key question, which is how should the quality of your content be handled? We always say this. Quality of your content should probably match the quality of your brand. And you already know the quality of your brand, and I can show you what the quality of your brand looks like relevant in a video. So I just wanted to put that out there, but this next part around music and sound, I'm gonna come back to you again, Anne Marie. So the question is, which platform is best to use for group fitness classes when it comes to sound quality? And I stole a little bit of your answer in that last.
Yeah, I mean, what platform is best for sound quality? Again, it's the social media if you're doing that, it's just kind of that, you actually want to bring the music. If your music's on your phone, you want to actually bring it to where you are. So the music's not all the way up here and you're back here. So you're kind of on that same plane. As far as the music goes, I mean, again, guys, like and I have a list like Audio Jungle, Soundstripe, Artlist, Musicvine, Muscle Mixes. There are plenty of music companies that you can grab for online work, and there's different rights, and Mike can speak to those rights. But make sure if you are, whether you're on a private Facebook group or a public Facebook group, or really truly even on Zoom or Skype, you need to be using the royalty-free music. You need to kind of pay for that, because we rely so much on music. We want the artist to keep creating for us, so that's super important. And as far as sound quality goes, again, there's workarounds with mixers. I know a lot of instructors are like, okay, we're tech people now. They're plugging in their mixers so that the audio and the music can be on 2 separate channels.
Awesome. So the next question actually comes into the legal side of music. And so what's the legal situation with music royalty fees for different scenarios, live streaming for a closed group, live streaming for a public group, et cetera, et cetera? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, when I've been looking at and even reading kind of the legalities of it on Zoom, you're really supposed to just share your playlist. And if you're sharing your Spotify playlist, then people need to be spending the $9.99 per month for the premium to be able to play that music in order and follow you. So they're still getting paid for that streaming. If you share an iTunes playlist, they're paying $1.29 or 99 cents per song in creating that playlist. So you're above board on that. So yeah, even though you're in a private group or Zoom, and you may not get flagged as you would on social media live, because I think they were being pretty lenient during COVID because so many people were taken to the airwaves, but they will take the video down because you're not paying the proper licensing. So I would always just do that, because really what you're doing, you're a content creator, you want to get paid for your creative content. Same with the music industry, these artists should be paid for their creation.
Awesome. I'll add a couple of things to that and just kind of give you some categories to look at. So Anne-Marie hit on royalty-free licenses, which she gave you a couple examples. Another thing you can do with that is, and this comes back to post-production, is you can literally actually take those lists and have your post-production person match the beats to whatever sort of BPM, or sort of like, following your crescendos and getting into like whatever that feel is that you're trying to get to in music. Takes a little bit more time, but it actually creates a little bit better of an experience. On the other side, then you have the managed rights side of the equation. And so there's companies out there that actually leverage internet radio protocols. So they're playing a specific genre around a specific BPM or whatever it may be, however you want this set up, which is then audio is laid on top of your video, but the song is different each time, but it might be hip hop every single time because that's what's in your playlist. And that's actually a way to pay the same way that an internet radio group would pay, versus the last piece being sync licensing, which is the more expensive side of the equation, which is if you're capturing your video with music in the background and then you repost that, that's considered a sync license, and you're going to need to have the rights to do that, or that's where you end up getting taken down more times than not, is because you don't. And so for those, you can go do direct deals, direct licensing. It's more expensive, but keep in mind, that's a very big profit center for the music industry. So that's why we have some of this rub going on potentially there. But there's a few different ways to handle it. Unfortunately, the perfect solution doesn't necessarily exist. And just to bring this up, since somebody asked this question, your music license that you have inside the studio is not the same for online. And that is a clear differentiator you need to understand, and you need to address that. So the next piece that we have here is a financial budgets and kind of like some metrics numbers. So what investment budget should I plan when switching to virtual as an independent personal trainer, group fitness instructor, including fees for platforms, gear, etc.? So that's a big question, and so I'm going to try to break this down into some basics. Your upfront spend is going to be around gear, right? So do you need a microphone? Do you need lights? Do you need a camera? It's a one-time cost, right? When it comes to the platform side of the equation, if you end up going with a paywall-based solution, everybody prices completely different, but I'm going to just give you this sort of view. The numbers go anywhere below $1 per user per month, and I've seen as high as like $4 or $5 per user per month. Depends on how much work you need to put in. Does it include a mobile app? Does it include OTT? But that's a pretty good understanding where people are playing at. That's a big variance. A lot of times bigger brands will play in the lower side of that equation. And so when you think about that, if you're charging $9.99, $19.99, and I'm paying $1 or $2 to service that, whatever your time is to create the content, it's a pretty good business. So a lot of these businesses are running 70, 80% gross margins on that. So you can kind of think about how that might be financially for you, but you can get started in this industry for relatively nothing. If you have your iPhone, you have a social media account, I mean, that's a great low barriers to entry because the product is your workout as an instructor. If you are a brand, then you need to establish relationships with the instructors for that, and obviously you'd have to pay them to do that. And then the next question I have is, what are some of the basic KPIs and metrics that I should use to build into my plan? So I think there's an important metric that I'd like everybody to know and understand, and that is that if you are getting in this space, and let's say you had 1,000 members, a certain percentage of those members are going to join online, especially in the COVID situation, right? Just going to be a different number. But let's assume that that's done at like $9.99 because they're a member and you're just going to give them a benefit, but you want to price it at $19.99. Our data and the number that we normally put out there in public is around 75%-ish will actually not be members. This product online is the lowest barrier entry product, which is top of funnel for you. Does not mean that it's going to funnel directly into your studio because not everybody is within proximity. That's an important point to know, that the reasons why somebody joins online is probably because they're not within proximity. Schedule doesn't match their schedule, so they can't get into the studio with the time that you're teaching their class. It costs too much, so this is a lower barrier entry price product to try. If somebody only has 30 minutes in a day to work out, guess what? The drive to the studio and back is just out, right? And then the other side of the equation is the intimidation factor. Some people are intimidated by fitness, and it could be a boxing class, and that could be intimidating for somebody, or it could be yoga, and you're like, I don't even know how to do anything, right? And so it's an easier way to try. I think every business nowadays needs to have a product that serves convenience, and keep in mind what this convenience competes for is time, right? And so you need to have a solution that addresses the time factor, and that there can extend your business. And there's multiple businesses that you've seen out there that have grown 400, 500, 600% growth in subscribers in a month or two, relevant to just everything that took place. And so our view is this, as we quantified last year that there were about over 10 billion fitness streams. That's more streams than workouts and check-ins at clubs. This is a big thing, and it's even bigger than it was back then. So I think it's something that you have to look and figure out how you want to do it. It's not a question of whether you do it. So
I'm going to add just one thing to that, which is true. I think especially now that people were sheltering at home, they bought the equipment, they cleared the space, they figured out the technology, they got comfortable. And then, like Mike said, that intimidation, or gym intimidation, as they say, is huge. So virtual really could be the gateway to live or in-studio experiences. And Wexner's talked about it, Fitness on Demand's talked about it. Where they're getting to know the instructors, they're feeling part of this online community, and they're getting the confidence, they're maybe losing weight, or they really like who they're working out with this online community, and then they can come into the space. So we think, when Mike's always talked about, it's flip-flopped, where, all my, people at the gym are now going to do online. It may be really the other way around, where people are consuming virtually and digitally, and then they have the comfort level and confidence to go into the live class.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. So one of the things I think the premise of this talk here, and kind of how we think we want to wrap some of this up, is to say, how can I use digital with my club opening? So that's a question that we've had to explore with customers. And so I want to give you somewhat of a view of maybe how to think about this, and then we'll dive into some other ideas behind this. But we know you're opening, you might open with a max of like a 50% capacity, right, as it relates to whatever restrictions are put on you. And so what we've looked at and done before is we've said, okay, great, 50% is now 50 people versus 100 people as an example. And now I'm going to measure my utilization against that, because I think I should be able to capture utilization at the same percentage as I did previously, but at a lower number. So naturally it's going to be lower. What we do then is we look at that, and we've looked at that as it relates to the physical club, and we've said, okay, that's going to produce X for me, or half an X, let's call it half an X. Then I'm actually able to look at that delta and say, man, that makes me short by $10,000, whatever the case may be. That gives us a metric that we can then look and say, okay, how can digital supplement the difference there? And then we are able to work a strategy backwards from that that says, this is how I use digital to supplement my business. We're also able to look at the data and say, who of your members has used your digital solution, or what of the people using digital actually live within 15 minutes, live within that primary trading area. And we're able to segment that to help figure out the funnel to pull people back into the facility. And we're also able to use that digital solution to gap fill. And so what happens is those two things over a period of time should get you back to your regular position of whatever that was financially. And there's a whole formula that you can do against that. So to us, when we look at this, is when we say, how can we use digital to leverage when I'm opening the club back up? It's actually the way that you're going to get that excess capacity number that you cannot get because of the state restrictions or whatever it may be, to get your financial metrics where you need them to be. And there's multiple ways to do that. So for those that jumped on board and got into this right away, you're a head start, and we can leverage that to potentially gap fill a little bit. And for those that need to get into it now, it's not too late, because there's still a ton of opportunity. And so that's one of the ways that we kind of look at it formulaically. And then Anne-Marie, if you have anything.
I just want to jump in on that. And I think this is really important. I think this is another way. If we don't have to just talk about offering fitness classes online or digitally, virtually. I look at all these gyms and what they were offering: education, financial support education, mental health services, bringing experts in. So, they said the way the gyms are going is the medical and the health and the overall wellness. Think about that. It could be nutrition, it could be mental health. All of these services that you were doing kind of just out of the kindness of your own heart, you can continue to do that, because that is part of the 360 wellness that gyms and clubs should be doing, not just rock hard abs or how fast can I run or how high can I jump. That's all great, but there's so many other components to wellness, and I think that's kind of the new conversation. And those could be virtual or digital offerings in addition to the fitness that you can monetize off of, in addition to your traditional bricks and mortar offerings.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's another thing that I think you guys could start to think about, and that is how you package the video. So a lot of times we just put videos out, but the next wave of what I see as monetization, and some people are capturing this already, comes around quote unquote 4-week, 6-week, 8-week programs that include video, that include some form of education, that include connection directly to the instructor. Had the ability last year to do some early tests on that, and that's kind of utilizing learning management systems where you have this content, we can take that content and repackage it into, and I'll give the example that we use, which is somebody can take a yoga class, or somebody could go sign up for how to lose 10 pounds after having a baby using yoga, right? It's a very specific, it's a very niched opportunity, but it also speaks directly to the person right there. And if you understand how to do your marketing and your digital ads and your PPC and all that type of stuff, you're able to get a very core audience, and they pay 4, 5, 6 times as much for that content. And just to give you an example, I did a test with somebody. They happen to be an influencer, and the first go around on the 6-week challenge was 750 signups at $100 a pop. So that's $75,000, and it's an unfair metric. Not everyone's going to be that way because you had a lot of followers. But number two is it only took about 8 to 10 hours a week to service that. And that was the emailing back and forth because it's all in video. The video side and the setup side was about 2 to 3 days. And so when you measure that and you think about the ROI on that, it's huge. So it's not just putting video out, it's how you put that video out, the programs you put around it. And then the other side of the equation is that we're seeing more and more people move into virtual membership models, which is video as part of it. And there's all these other things, as Anne-Marie was talking about, even down to ebooks and the nutrition side and obviously the meditation side and all that. So I think it's just opening your eyes up to say, how can I utilize online and how does it facilitate between my physical facility and my digital facility? You have anything more to add to that?
Yeah,
Anne-Marie?
no, that's exactly right. Just what are you can expand on your services digitally. So that's just another way. And I think the packaging is key, and the marketing for the niche markets and how you package it and how you digitally market it and message it is key, because the production part of it could be really small. It's just how do you message it and get it out, and that could grow way beyond your member base, physical member base.
And I think for those that have clubs and you wonder about what does the future look like specifically to that market, I'll tell you this, our view is that a digital and physical solution is the ultimate solution compared to a pure digital or just a pure physical facility solution. For the clubs that have been out there for quite a while, and we got a lot of feedback from people on this, and it was our view on this, is it's a lot easier to expand your physical footprint when you have a digital footprint. And the reason why is because you can test markets. I can go test Denver and see how my brand performs there online. And I can look to see where I have a brand fans of my brand that are willing to engage and pay me. So that's number one, right? And then I also have the ability to reach and add more instructors to my brand. Traditionally, all my instructors are going to have been within my physical presence, but now with the digital side, I can actually go get instructors that might have really good followings that really match my brand and they make a lot of sense. And so now your world just got a lot bigger. That 15-minute circle just became 1,500 miles or unlimited as it relates. And so there's a ton of upside that's not just relevant to the connection to the member or to the new person. And so when you extend that sort of thinking, I think that brings this opportunity where digital becomes a great opportunity. And it's my view, and I'll just say mine, I won't say it's SB Anne-Marie's, is that the brand of the future, I think, has the ability to follow a Warby Parker model, has the ability to start online, has the ability to be digital, and potentially then expand because they have the members and it's a lot lower risk in starting a facility. I know that may sound crazy and things of that nature, but I will tell you this, I can point to close to a handful of brands that are doing it right now. And it's a very different business, but it's a great business.
Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, right? A wellness lifestyle website, and now it's bricks and mortar. I mean, in the Hamptons in LA and New York, but it's bricks and mortar. So that happens.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
So, well, if there's no more questions, we ran through a lot of the questions that you guys had and we captured some here online. And so it was great to be able to share our experience and some insights. And if you want to talk to us more, you're more than welcome to reach out and talk to us. We're at endorphins.net and you can contact us there. I don't know if you have anything more you want to share, Anne-Marie.
Well, I was just saying, fitness is essential, and we've been talking about like what's an essential business. And if you looked at us being, a lot of clubs being closed and fast food restaurants being open, I know that was all over kind of LinkedIn and social media within the fitness space. But I think we as fitness professionals, whether we're instructor or gym owner, nutritionist, it's the mind body. It's essential for not only fighting off pandemics and diseases, but fighting off mental stress and strain and anxiety. So it really is the 360 holistic approach, and just happy to be part of this community. And thank you, Micah, for sharing, because this is what we need to do. We need to share this information and help everybody and just grow and become a stronger industry. So thank you.
Yeah. The one thing I want to leave everybody with, because I think this is like a really good sort of macro thing, is that the workout is the transaction, whether that's at a hotel, whether that's at your club, whether that's online. That's what I call the transaction. I call it the commerce of fitness. And we did research during COVID, and the amount of transactions in our industry is up. So even though as an industry or in the club side, we may be down and digital may be up and this, that, the pie has changed. I get that. And it's our opportunity as business owners and executives to figure out how to monetize that and combine that together. It actually creates a ton of opportunity, because our mission internally is obviously to help fitness creators get connected to the world. But internally mine is I want to see more workouts in the world and better fitness experiences. And we actually are achieving that in the world. So there is positive to this, and you just got to figure out that opportunity within that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Anne-Marie and Mike. I think you shared a lot of very valuable insights, and thank you for answering our audience's question. I think that was an awesome format, and I think you really provided great advice, and I feel like a lot of people can now use your advice and master their digital offerings. So thank you so much again, and thank you guys out there for attending our webinar. And I really hope I can see you all in Miami at USA in November.
Hope so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.